Controlled Death Knight is an archetype that is quite strong in the current metagame. The idea behind the deck is you want to use your different value minions to be able to then develop tempo and then overwhelm your opponent with the late game package that the deck has. It can use Fyrakk quite effectively using the Naralex combo, and that obviously is useful using your Sarah as well. When you've used a bunch of your corpses, you also have the ability to summon the Stitch Giant, which can be summoned for free as long as you've used 9 corpses, which isn't too hard when you use a reanimated minion to be able to get rush but also get the lifesteal. Maladar is also quite useful in terms of making sure that the minions able to be summoned earlier. Ziliax can be used to re-establish tempo, and then obviously you have you have the Hideous Husks as well to develop more of your board. The early game focuses on using your 1-drop, so you want to get Morbid Swarm, Scarab, Keychain, Creature of Madness, and Dreadhound Handler. Those are your best cards to be starting with in your mulligan. In general, the other cards that you're looking for is you're looking for Elise sometimes, you're looking for Nightmare Lord of Zarius, and if you are playing against a more greedy deck, obviously using the Fyrakk and things like that is quite strong as well. Going into the gameplay, I have summoned the Creature of Madness to get me the 3-drop onto the board. I've also just played down Elise. Elise is in general going to be quite a strong card to be using. It's quite useful when you use your Hideous Husks and things like that. For the Terror run, I chose the 5-mana one just because it can be quite useful getting the Raptors to be able to control the tempo of the board that the opponent has, but also in this situation it's quite useful against the and then also getting the 5/5 is obviously quite useful with the reanimated minion. I drew into the Morbid Swarm, which is fine, and I do use the location here to be able to get a board, but also to be able to deal with their 2-1. It just establishes a little bit of board presence here for me. Going into the next turn, I am sitting relatively strong because of the fact that they do need to do some trading, and I do obviously have the board advantage at the moment. With the 2 drops in my hand, I obviously have rush, and I am almost at the amount of corpses to be able to use the reanimated minion to be able to obviously deal with lifesteal and things like that. They end up playing down the zombie turn here. I do obviously have access to the reanimated minion this turn if I need to. I do play down the handler here. I play down both of them, and then I'm just looking at what the different options are for me. I end up using the hero power to get the 1-drop down onto the board. Obviously it sets me up for a future my future turns, and then I do some trading as well just into the minions that they have. So I get rid of that legendary minion just because I don't really want to have it on the board for me, and I play down the reanimated minion to be able to trade into the 2/4, and then I deal with deal face damage to them for the rest of it. So it ultimately leaves me in a decent-ish position. It obviously would have been preferred to have the 5/5 go onto the reanimated minion. It gets me lifesteal and rush, but I'll obviously be able to use it this turn anyway, so it doesn't matter too much for me. And then next turn I will be in a much better position for that. For the draws that I ended up getting as well, obviously I'm sitting in a relatively decent situation, being able to then get the board center that I have as well. So they end up conceding there. They weren't really too much in a situation that they could have done too much against me, so obviously conceding there does make sense. Playing against a Warlock, I do want to obviously establish tempo against them, because in general they're not too strong until they end up getting their quest online. Because quite often against Warlocks you are playing against the quest version. They are a little bit clunky in the earlier games, so that's obviously the thought process behind that as well. The minions that I'm wanting to get out, I'm obviously wanting to get my 1 and 2 cost minions out ready to go for the board to get board control against them. So with that, I do need to make sure that I'm obviously considering my different options that I have with the with the Scarab and with the Swarm. Choosing the Swarm there means that I can establish the 2/1/1s just in case against them, and then next turn I'll obviously be able to use the Creature of Madness to get a good 3-drop into it. I do play down the Creature of Madness here, and I end up choosing the Chiropractor because the rest of them aren't very good for me. I obviously don't want to get the Clumsy Steward because it would just give them temporary cards and that would be atrocious. This at least gives me a little bit of a buff against them if I need to start dealing extra damage against them too. And yeah, it does obviously provide some power. The mech is not useful at all for me because I don't have any mechs in the deck. They end up playing the Biome here, so it does get them an extra temporary card into their quest. And then they play down their Wisp, they play down their Amalgam, and then just pass over to me. So like it's sitting in a relatively decent position. I do a trade here just so I can trade into them, and I freeze my minion first before ending my turn, because I believe that the interaction for it is that if you attack and then freeze on the same turn for your minions, it means that you have the freeze turn going into your next turn as well. But if you freeze first, you end up not having that interaction, so you're able to save yourself for it. They play down their Questing Adventurer, which trades into my Chiropractor one, or Cryptopractor, or whatever it's called. And unfortunately for them, when they used the Solarium, they weren't able to get very good cards for them. So I'm just sending everything face towards them. Obviously, applying pressure against this deck is the best way to deal with it, because once they get the quest online, they are going to be able to get a lot of value coming against your deck. So you do need to make sure that each of the turns that you are playing down your minions and things, you're establishing that pressure towards them. Because once they get the board control, it can become quite difficult to get lethal going into them. They end up using their Biome again here. They've used their Tide Pool as well to be able to obviously get a useful spell for them. Using the Biome, they got the Raptor down, so they more than likely will be completing the quest this turn, which is fine. Like, it's not too much of an issue for me. The quest minion ends up trading into my guy, and it does get Wind Fury, so it makes it a little bit annoying going into the next turn. I do obviously have the Husk here, so I'll be able to trade into stuff if I need to. And I've also got the Maladar here to be able to get my Fyrakk online when I need to as well. With that, I end up trading into the 2/1. I obviously want to get rid of it from the board, and it's best to trade into the 2/2 here so the Husks ends up taking the other 2 minions out. It means that in the next turn I'll be able to deal with whatever that they end up having, and having the poisonous minion with the Blob of Tar does obviously provide a lot of board presence against them, because even if they end up getting the rush minion and the charge minion, they won't be able to get into my Husks, and then my Husks will obviously be able to deal with the board that they end up getting. So it does put me in a relatively strong position by having this. They end up getting the Reborn minion, which is fine. Like, it's not too much of an issue. I can use the poisonous minion to trade into the 3/5. But they end up using the Shard to obviously be able to make it so I can't go with that strategy. I trade the 4/4 into the 3/1, and then I use my 1/2 to trade in. It didn't really matter what the option was. I then use my charge minion to trade into the 3/1, and by taking out the Glacial Shard, I can then deal the other damage onto it using my Husks. Because obviously that was the optimum way to trade in and make sure that I had the stuff that was there. I end up choosing the Elise here. It gets me the most value just in case they do end up pulling some sort of sneaky move against me. With the Maladar and with the Fyrakk in my hand, it's more than likely that I will be fine going into whatever they do. They play down the Horizon's Edge, so it is definitely hoping that it hits some relatively decent targets. Unfortunately for them, it does hit the 4 damage minion, so it makes it relatively strong for them, and they end up getting the charge minion, which is probably not that useful for them in this situation. Like, it gets rid of my 4-drop, but it does mean that I still obviously have a board presence against them. They use another Horizon's Edge, so with the 1 mana poisonous minion still being there, it is quite a difficult situation for them to have to deal with. And having the Husks on the board means that at the moment I am just dealing lethal to them, since they they don't have enough health. They only have the 2 health rather than the 5 health that's there. They use the biome here, which does technically save them from that turn play. But you know, with the damage and the board presence that I have here, I am sitting still relatively strong for the next turn. I do have the charge minion here with my hero power, and then I also have the rush minion, so I am able to obviously deal lethal this turn. So I use the hero power, I trade into the 3-1, I use the 2-1 to trade into the 2-1, and then I just pass, and that will end up dealing lethal with the hero power. So as you can see, like, you want to apply that pressure as much as you can against the quest deck, just because if they do end up getting set up, it can become quite difficult to deal with them in the later turns. And since I was quite aggressive with my board presence as well, obviously it meant that they didn't have much of a good outcome that they potentially could have had. The next game I'm playing against a Hunter, so with Hunter, hand buff being Hunter being nerfed, there isn't like a extremely concerning Hunter to be dealing with. Like, there's still the Quest Hunter, obviously, but besides from that, you're not really too concerned, and Beast Hunter, you're not really too concerned about the Hunter archetypes. With Control Death Knight, against an aggressive archetype, you in general have quite a favourable matchup, just because you can trade quite easily into their minions, and you do obviously have lifesteal that's useful against them as well. I end up using the Creature of Madness here, and I choose the Renovator just because going into the next turns, if they do end up having a location such as the Parrot Sanctuary or the Beast one, which allows them to deal damage, you do want to make sure that you're ready for it, and you can obviously deal with the stuff that's coming out from it. I do play down the Morbid Swarm and my 2-1 onto the board just to establish some more pressure into them, and with them not really doing too much this turn, it does mean that I am sitting relatively strong for the following turn against them. The Husk obviously is quite useful. I do draw into the Infestation here, which is a great card for me to have, and with that it does mean that I end up being able to get the full trade onto the board, and if they do clear my board somehow, I will obviously be able to get the 5 mana minion onto the board, the reanimated minion onto the board. They end up playing down the Mother Duck, so it will allow them to trade quite effectively into my minions. They are using it to trade into the Slime just to get it off the board. Obviously that's going to be the safest play for them to make sure that they can deal with quite a lot of minions. I do trade into the board that they have there. Obviously it's not ideal to trade like that, but with the deck archetypes that we're playing, it is best for me to take out the minions as best as I can. I use the reanimated minion to trade into the Mother Duck, and then I play down the Creature of Madness to get some extra pressure into them, and obviously that then sets me up for the next turn, which will provide a little bit more aggressiveness towards them. I end up choosing the card grader here just in case I do need a little bit of extra value or another important card to deal with them, and obviously it does apply a bit of pressure as well. By doing it this way, it does also mean that I can get into that strong board state as well. They play down another Mother Duck. It means that they will be able to trade out my leeches, which is fine. Like, it's not too much of an issue for me. And I do draw into the Elise here, which is obviously quite good for me as well. They end up using I end up using the Elise to get the 5 mana location, because in general that's going to be one of the stronger ones into most of these archetypes, and yeah, like, it obviously is going to provide a little bit of aggressiveness towards them. With the board state, I am obviously just trying to take out as much of the board that I can, because once again they're the aggressive deck, and with it being into turn 6 and I still have a little bit of a board, obviously that's going to be quite strong for me. And they haven't dealt any damage into me either. They end up using their patchwork powers to be able to get a board presence just now. With me drawing the Nara Lex, it obviously just sets me up perfectly for what I need to, because then I can just play Fyrakk it does end up clearing their board as well, which is obviously quite strong for me, and then I will definitely be able to apply lethal towards them. So Fyrakk is a pretty busted card. Like, in all honesty, I do believe that it shouldn't be as strong as it is, and with the Narrowlex you're able to access it so early. Like, I'd mana cheated out such a strong board then that there's no real way that they'd be able to deal with that, and then they obviously end up conceding. So like, I did get a little bit lucky with the Narrowlex, but I feel like I would have been able to deal with the board if I needed to anyway. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and bye for now.